Who is the second beast? He is the false prophet. He's called also the false prophet. That is the second beast that came out of the earth like a lamb, two horns, like a lamb, but speaking like a dragon. We'll be talking about 4 points in relation to the false beast, or the false prophet, or the beast that came out of the earth. Let's go and look at number 1, purpose of the false prophet. He exercises all the authority of the first beast. Who is the first beast? The one that came out of the sea, with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns. This false prophet exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Revelation 13:12. This is the purpose of the false prophet. What is it? He exercises all the authority of the first one that came out of the sea, and causes the earth, meaning humanity, the earth meaning human, not just Christians, every single human being. That's the earth. And he causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, the one with the 7 heads and 10 horns, whose deadly wound was healed. Let's go to the second point. Timing of the false prophet. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. Revelation 13:13. When is this false prophet appearing? The timing of the appearance of this false prophet. The timing of it is, and I saw one of his heads, one of the 7 heads, one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. Revelation 13:3. Do you want to know who the 7th head is? The 7th empire? Are you ready? The 7th empire is the British Empire. You want a cup of A? Get me meaning, you know what I mean. The British Empire is the 7th head. You see, John the Beloved said, 5 have fallen, one is. One is the Roman Empire. The 7th one is coming later on. At the time, there was no Roman Empire because John was already gone to heaven. So when he prophesied about the 7th one, he said, the 7th one is going to come, he will rule for a short time, and then he will be wounded. Out of the wound, so between the fall, the wounding, and the rising, the false prophet appears. The timing of it is between the wounding and the rising. Because out of the 7th, the 8th one comes. But this 8th one is also of the 7. Now that is the identity of the 8th one. That's next week, okay? So the 7th head is the British Empire. We'll take you through a bit of a history here. Maybe to some of us, it's news, like first time ever. Because these things, they don't teach you definitely at high school or university levels. I can assure you, they will never put this in no curriculums whatsoever. Great Britain established the Bank of England in the 16th century, and they called it the fractional reserve banking. And until this very day, every Federal Reserve Bank of the world follows this system of Great Britain since the 16th century. Every Federal Reserve Bank is a fractional reserve banking system. What is fractional? As the word says, it's a fraction. It's built on a lie. That's what it is. The banks are built on a lie. So you go and invest your money in the bank. You put $5,000 in the bank, and then someone else comes and he says to the bank, I want to borrow $100,000. The bank has $5,000. They will lend you $100, based on nothing. In the good olden days, whatever they would lend, they would back it off with gold, goldsmith. But they realized this is not practical. Gold is not the way to go. We can't do that. So what do we do? Just print. No backup. So they'll charge you 5% on the 100,000, but they don't have it. So they picked out of 30s or whatever. They made it $1 million out of you, and they made money from nothing. Who came up with this idea? British people. Very smart, but for the wrong reasons. Not the good. We'll see what they've done. Now, when I say British, please don't get me wrong. I know there are some wonderful people watching from England and from Great Britain. But I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about governmental system. Governmental system. It's very evil. Has anyone heard of Waterloo battle? Napoleon. Waterloo battle in 1815, the Battle of Waterloo between Britain and France was to determine who would rule the mainland of Europe. During this time, there were some bankers called the Rothschild. Wow. Yes. This battle was to determine who was going to rule Europe in general, between England and France. Let's look at Rothschild for a little while here and see who they are. Roth is an old spelling of red, and Schild is shield. They lived in Frankfurt, Germany, in Judengasse. Judengasse, literally the Jews' lane, the Jewish ghetto. They started in a very poor area in Germany. They were extremely poor. But Mar Emmanuel Rothschild established international banking family through his 5 sons, who established businesses in London, Paris, Frankfurt, Vienna, and Naples. Vienna and Naples, Italy. Is anybody home? Okay. So, they established in 5 countries: London, Paris, Frankfurt, Vienna, and Naples. Mar Emmanuel Rothschild's sons are Emmanuel, he was placed in Frankfurt; Solomon in Vienna; Nathan in London; Carl in Naples; and James in Paris. So this dad, Mar Emmanuel Rothschild, was a brilliant-minded guy who came up with an international banking family, and he used his 5 sons and he spread them all over Europe to control money. Bank of England. Nathan May Rothschild purchased bonds at a very low rate due to spreading rumors of British Empire's defeat. Let me elaborate on this. What happened? The Waterloo battle took place between Britain and France. Now Nathan, one of the sons, was based in London. James, on the other hand, was based in Paris. So what happened? They communicated with one another. So the Bank of England, that was established in the 16th century, started funding the war. They started lending money to the British government to continue the war and hopefully win the battle. They ran out of money. So who came to the rescue? The one and only Nathan, the son of the Mar Emmanuel Rothschild. So he came and he said, look, I'm gonna fund you. I'm gonna give you all the money and go for it. On the other side, who's funding France? His brother, James. In fact, James was more powerful than Nathan. So they funded them, and then the battle was being won by Britain. Nathan Rothschild received the news 24 hours before the British government got the news that they won the battle. So what Nathan did in those 24 hours, he found the window of opportunity to be multi-billionaire overnight. He went and sold his bonds that he had in that Bank of England. He sold them on the basis saying to everyone, guys, Britain lost the battle and I'm selling it before it becomes absolutely nothing. He started selling them at a very cheap rate. Everybody knew Nathan is a wizard when it comes to banking, investment and all that. They trusted his judgment. So what they did, all of them went and sold their bonds at a penny of a price. What he did, he went and bought them all. He bought them all, including the bonds of Bank of England. He bought everything. The following day, the news came, the government of Britain realized they won the battle. When they said we've won the battle, within 24 hours, the bonds skyrocketed. He became a billionaire and owned completely Bank of England. He owned it. It was his. Smart. There's a lot of information. We move forward in history. Great Britain established something called East India Company. Now this East India Company, it was beautiful. At the beginning, nothing wrong with it, but you know what, under the radar, they were doing wonders. East India Company, what was that? The East India Company was initially created in the 1600s to serve as a trading body for English merchants, specifically to participate in the East India spice trade. That's what it was for. But look what they did. Through East India Company, the British established a warfare to rule the world. Selling spices, trading with spices, and let me give you another spice, a bomb here, a hand grenade here, you know, a gun here, that's another spice. They established a warfare to rule the world. Why do you think the Federal Reserve Bank was really established and overtaken by the Rothschild to create wars? We control the banks, we control countries, and we cause wars, we create wars, and we fund the wars. And now the country owns us. Now, owe us, sorry. The country now owe us money. They will pay that money with interest for the rest of their life. So in the meanwhile, we can do whatever in that country. They can't say no because we gave them the money to win the battle. So when the person in charge, with all love and respect, right, that came out, I don't know, a week or two ago, being under investigation, the Federal Reserve Bank in Australia, when they were questioning him by that whatever team, I'm so sorry to say this, but it's a joke. He knows very well the Federal Reserve Bank is a Freemason owned, and they tell him what to do. He doesn't have to raise interest rates at all. He didn't have to print cash during lockdowns. But we got the information from the health experts. Who? The Hazard? And they gave us the wrong information. Like the Premier of New South Wales said it the other day. These jabs do not stop transmission. But in the very beginning, they will stop every transmission and destroy the virus. Lies, because it's a jab. It's not a vaccine, please. It's a jab. It's not a vaccine. So anyway, they established and controlled the Federal Reserve banks to create wars. World War I, World War II, deliberately created. Deliberate. To control humanity. Man, I don't have the time. Look what Great Britain did. In the 1850s, the British Empire ruled China. Wow. Ruled China. That's why until recent times Hong Kong was a colony. It belonged to the Great British. The Chinese of Hong Kong are British. They live like British, they talk like British, and they drive like British. And extremely rich people. But the Chinese government forced them to belong to China. Now they said no more a country within a country. Hong Kong belongs to China. No longer you are British, you're Chinese. And they go out in the streets on riots, and they brought the army, killed so many of them, and now Hong Kong is going back to China. But who ruled? Great Britain, my beloveds. Great Britain, look what they did. Look what they did to the Chinese, my goodness. Chinese tried to overthrow the British colonization. However, they retaliated with the Great Opium War. They called it the Great Opium War, heroin. Who brought heroin into China? Great Britain. Why? To make everyone high and forget about everything else. When you're on high, mate, what are you going to do? You're going to go and retaliate? You're going to fight? No, you're finished. You're going to love the British for giving you the good old stuff. They called it the Great Opium War. Governments have a hand in a lot of drugs that come into the countries. Yeah. Every now and then they show you, we caught the syndicate. Mate, through the back doors it was released. Corruption is everywhere, unfortunately. It's very sad, very sad. So the Great Britain, to overcome the Chinese uprising, they flooded the country with heroin. And they called it the Great Opium War. British Empire killed millions of Indian people and also traded them to the United States as slaves. They've done the same thing in India. India is one of the Commonwealth countries, like Australia is. The banks of the United States were actually funded by slavery money, piracy money, and drug money. Not long ago, major banks in Australia were under the microscope. They were fined, I don't know how many millions, for money laundering. Commonwealth, I don't know, Westpac, the major ones. And they were fined. But do you think they can stop them? No, the banks will tell the government what to do. Because they have big boys behind them. And I'm saying some big stuff here today. I'll be Australia's most wanted after this one. Do you think they care? They don't. World War I began on the 28th of July, 1914. Britain was in trouble. The United States came and bailed them out. World War I ended on the 11th of the 11th, 1918. World War II started on 1st of September 1939 and ended on the 2nd of September 1945. Where the instrument of surrender was signed on the USS Missouri battleship, and with it came the end of the British Empire. The end of World War II was the end of the great British Empire, the seventh head of the beast, which John the Beloved saw coming out of the sea. That was the end of the British Empire. Or was it? Well, let's see. Great Britain we can say for certainty, Great Britain ruled the world from 1815, the Battle of Waterloo, where they overcame the French. They ruled the world from 1815 till the end of World War II, which ended in 1945. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded. One of the heads mortally wounded, the fall of the British Empire at the end of World War II in 1945. The British Empire, being the seventh head, was wounded, it fell. Look at John the Beloved, how he's talking in a prophetic way. And his deadly wound was healed. So he was wounded, but that wound was healed later on. Wow. Between the wound and the healing, the false prophet appears. The timing of the false prophet. The one who came out of the earth, the land, dressed up like a lamb, two horns, speaking like a dragon. Who is the dragon? Satan. Satan, my beloved. This was the timing of the false prophet appearing, between the wounding and the healing, between the fall and the rise, the false prophet comes on board. We can say now that the false prophet has been with us since 1945. Now, we said earlier, what is he doing? What is the purpose of the false prophet? He exercises all the authority of the first beast. And then he makes every human being to worship the first beast. That's his purpose. That's what he's coming for. He's coming to exercise all the authority of the first beast, the one with the 7 heads and 10 horns. And he will try to make every human being to worship the first beast. And have you fastened your seatbelts yet? Okay, it's going to get more exciting now. The false prophet. Purpose of the false prophet, we discussed. Timing of the false prophet, we said it was at the wounding of the head and the healing of it. At the fall of the great British Empire and the uprising of the 8th head, who is also of the 7th. That's when the false prophet appears. Now let's come to the powers, the purpose, the timing, the third point, the powers of the false prophet. Maybe it's a bit hot here. Is it a bit warm in here? I know I'm hot. It's always my presence. But if we can just cool the temperature a bit. Now let's come to the powers of the false prophet. What does he do? He performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Revelation 13:13. He brings fire from heaven in the sight of men. That is, what is that? That is his powers. He brings fire from heaven. He has 3 powers. 1, he brings fire from heaven. Let's go to number 2. Number 2, he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, the first one, the one with the 7 heads and the 10 horns. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Revelation 13:15. And the third power, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand, on their forehead. Revelation 13:16. What is this mark? No one may buy or sell except one who has the mark. The mark is a number of a man, his number is 666.